Today, Israel bombed a refugee camp in Gaza after telling Palestinians just 4 days ago that this area called Block 2371 was a safe area in Rafah. And then they bombed them 60 times, a refugee camp, when they were sleeping. 60 times, a refugee camp. A refugee camp all made up of tents with families. And there is a video of a man who holds up a burnt Palestinian baby, and the baby's head is completely decapitated. And the videos are just of burnt people. That video was the very first video I woke up to this morning, and I had to cover my mouth to stop myself from screaming and sobbing. This is a sickness that we are watching. This is a sickness that we are all witnessing. And I became physically sick from this. So much that I had to actually take time to focus on healing my body. And I think every day, the trauma, the torture that Palestinians in Gaza have to endure, that trauma will never leave them. It will never leave their bodies. It will never leave their mind. The torture that they are subjected to on a minute by minute basis. And there seems like there's no end in sight because it feels like America and Israel and the UK and all these European and Western countries are above international law. So it doesn't feel like we can even imagine the end. Because right now, a country that calls itself the only democracy in the Middle East bombed a refugee camp where people were sleeping, where families were sleeping. And people, Zionists will literally say, how can you say that Israel's a monster? They gave them a warning. I feel like we're not all living in the same world, and in a time where there's multiple genocides and multiple famines happening all at the same time, and people in America are asking, well, if we're not voting for Biden, who are we going to vote for? It is unreal sometimes to be alive at this point. It feels like I am in the motherfucking Truman Show sometimes. Like, this shit is so unreal. And then I watch a video of children dying in the most horrible, in the most difficult ways humanly possible. Like, no one should have to leave this world feeling that much pain, let alone a child whose body is so fragile. And then I realized this is very real.
Before I start this video, I would like to get a shout out to Charlene Eldon on TikTok for the story. What I'm about to tell you guys is really controversial, and if the YouTube want to, remove this video, I give two F's about this, right? Because this has to be said. And I'm not going to monetize this video because I'm not going to do that either, because I know that YouTube may demonetize this video. But I just want to say this. The incident in Rafah, I saw the videos. I hear the mothers, the babies crying in tears, screaming in horror. And it hurts me a little bit. It touched my soul a little bit because, we've been hearing that Israel said that, quote, their bomb Hamas associates or Hamas leader targets. But you bomb innocent Palestinians. You're bombing women and children. Not just toddler children, babies. And, you know, we've been hearing time and time again, well, Israel has every right to defend itself because, you know, Hamas launched rockets into Israel, blah, blah, blah. But this is the same Israel that told Palestinians it had nothing to do with the war. Has nothing to do with that. Go to Rafah. It's a safe zone. All the millions of Palestinians go there. It's a safe zone. Y'all can hide out, stuff like that. But then when you bomb the refugee camp in Rafah, that basically unalive children, women, you know, and men that really had nothing to do with Hamas. That disturbs me as a human being. I even on X even call a ceasefire because this is getting out of hand. And I know a lot of people in the black community say, well, Lions Den, isn't our fight. Why are we talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Because history has always teaches us of what happened to our ancestors in this country. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Lions Den, this is an entirely different situation. But what we're seeing is so horrifying that innocent women and children, babies, has been slaughtered by an airstrike. I mean, of Israeli airstrike, the same weapons that we as taxpayers sent to Israel. Billions of dollars worth of taxpayers, which, by the way, some of that billions of dollars could help us here. Some of the billions of dollars could help us getting reparations for foundation of Black Americans. But of course, our government, who already pro-Israel, still keeps sending billions of dollars to the Israeli government, and they use those same billions of dollars, use those same weaponry, who annihilated the women and children in Rafah, the women and children in Palestine. Think about it for a second. Those taxpayers' dollars should have used it as our reparations. And I'm talking to black people in the community. That should have been reparation money for us right there. But they ignore us by, of course, try to ban TikTok, but yet keep sending Israel, keep sending Ukraine billions among billions of dollars, using their weaponry for other things. And when I saw it on TikTok, the horror of babies screaming, of women screaming, that reminded me of what happened with us decades ago. And yes, I'm demonetizing this because I want people to understand the Palestinians, understanding their suffering, understanding their struggles. And again, the Israeli soldiers keep sending attacking Palestinian kids in Gaza, in the West Bank. But there's some controversial stuff that I want to say, but I'm not going to say it on here because I don't want YouTube to remove the video or demonetize. Well, I'm not going to monetize this video anyway because this has to be said. Now you got South Africa, along with other Islamic countries, some Islamic countries, and now some European countries are requesting the United Nations Security Council to stop Israel, to basically create a ceasefire. And now, of course, our President Joe Biden wants to see if they have a Palestinian state. But then, I mean, really, this is his campaign. And so and at the end of the day, they still pro-Israel. They still thinking that Israel need a lot of weapons, a lot of fighter jets, a lot of Apache helicopters to fight terrorism or war. And in my opinion, this is not a war, because Palestinians don't have no weapons to defend itself. They don't have no tanks. They don't have no artillery shells to defend itself. They don't have none of that. But they always say, well, Hamas has targeting, and this is the facts, that Hamas allegedly targeting using missiles at Israel. But what do they have? What do the Palestinians have? It's called survival. This is really breaks my heart, because now I see videos of unalived children. I see fathers in tears picking up, picking up their kids who are unalive. They're no longer with them. It's sad that some of us Americans, and even politicians, and are supporting Israel the way they does. Nikki Haley, and I'm gonna bring her up now. Nikki Haley, who was running against Donald Trump in the primaries, she wrote one of the most disgusting things as a political person I've ever seen in my life. And she said, she wrote it, and I'm paraphrasing it, in one of the Israeli missiles. Finish them. Let's finish them. With a heart emoji, and love, Nikki Haley. Now who does that as a politician? Who does that? If, let's just say hypothetically, if they, quote unquote, and I'm just letting some Americans think to their heads for a second. If they decided to have airstrikes against us, now I know that's not going to happen, because we're still one of the superpowers. But let's just think for a second: what if they have bombs hitting our kids and children, and a politician from a different country said, "Let's finish them"? Y'all will be outraged. Y'all will be appalled. And for Nikki Haley, who was the former governor of South Carolina, or a senator out of South Carolina, put something like that on an Israeli missile? Are you serious? It just really saddened that this is not just about, it's a human being issue. When you have a child in Rafah, almost thousands of kids unalive daily in Rafah over an airstrike from Israel, and the government seeing a blind eye and saying, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. What about Palestinians and their rights? What about them? All you think about is, well, Hamas attacking Israel, but there's no comparison that Israel has weaponry that can annihilate the West Bank and Gaza like that. And yes, Israel also has nuclear weapons. So if Israel wanted to, Gaza and the West Bank will be no more. Will be no more. And I'm sorry, like, this is basically And to me, this is a war-torn country, and I'm telling you like this, our taxpayers' dollars is paying that for everything. Paying for everything. So ladies and gentlemen, it's frustrating because now that we're trying to fight for our rights. I mean, we're trying to fight that the Palestinians and their rights as the way to live, the way to survive. And people don't give two F's about them. We got people across the country like France, Turkey, Italy. Everybody is now pro-Palestine. You have the Palestinian flags everywhere because of what Israel is doing to them. So, our president and the government, and I'm going to tell you like this, even though they supported Israel, doesn't necessarily mean half of American citizens support Israel, because we don't. We don't. Half of us don't support it. Some of us support the Palestinians. Even celebrities are now coming out saying they condemn Israel for what they did to the incident in Rafah. So, it's crazy, y'all. I would like to know what you think about this. I think that we've been called for a ceasefire, and it's like they turn a blind eye for that. But then they're gonna say, well, Israel did, Hamas did attack Israel. Israel had every right to defend itself. But there's Palestinians out there that's trying to get away from the war and had nothing to do with the war. And Israel just want to bomb. I mean, and yet they're the ones that tell them go to Rafah, that's a safe zone. And as you can see, that's not safe. Y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments.